So I've been putting quite a few new drugstore products to the test over the last few weeks, and I wanted to share my final reviews with you and just some product updates, the pros, the cons, which ones I truly think are worth trying and which ones maybe aren't necessary if you're trying to cut down and maybe be a little bit more mindful about your purchases. I have 20 different products to talk about in today's video, so quite a few. I'll try to keep it quick, but I'll also put chapters in the description box, so feel free to jump ahead if you're only interested in specific brands, specific products. I think most of the products in today's video are under $10, so definitely on the more affordable side, but at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean they're all worth picking up. Let's start with complexion products. So I recently tried a few priming products that are meant to be very hydrating, and I did have some really good luck, but this one was a little bit weird, and for me personally, it's just a fail. It is the Essence Bouncy Plump Smoothing Primer. So this retails for $5.99. It's the texture of this that kind of throws me off. It's meant to be very hydrating, very plumping, and also leave your skin feeling and looking smooth. I'm wearing it today. I wanted to try it like one last time, and I feel like my foundation looks patchy. It might look okay on camera, but as I was like setting my foundation into place, I was like, what is going on with my forehead? It's this product. The texture of this feels kind of gritty. Or you know what? You know when you apply a moisturizer and then you go in with a primer and it starts to pill? That's what this feels like on the skin, but there's no like visible pilling. It just feels like there is a weird texture that shouldn't be there. After I apply this to my skin, it looks somewhat smooth, but not anywhere near as smooth as when I use like probably 5 to 10 other smoothing primers in my collection. The drugstore brands have launched so many smoothing primers over the years, and I feel like pretty much all of them are better than this one. It also doesn't feel extremely hydrating on the skin. I feel like it doesn't do much, and the texture is kind of unpleasant as a whole. So I personally would skip over this one. I just don't really understand exactly what they were trying to do, and I feel like there are a lot of better alternatives out there. They did launch another product with a very similar name. This is the Bouncy Plump Hydrating Dewy Spray. This is much better in my opinion. This product retails for $5.99 as well, and you might already have something in your collection that comes close to this that has a very similar purpose, and if that's the case, I don't think you need to run out and buy this, but I do think it is a great option if you're looking to either prep your skin, if you're looking to refresh your skin while you're doing makeup, or even to set your skin with a nice dewy spray. It looks great on bare skin, like on top of sunscreen. It also works well if you're like doing your makeup and you feel like your foundation looks a little bit dry, to kind of refresh everything. And then if you're using it as an actual setting spray, it is very refreshing and also gives you a little bit of a dewy look without being too greasy or too intense. Two more things. This does have a slight watermelon scent, just something to note in case you're sensitive to fragrance. And the mist on this is great. That is something I love about these two products. Sometimes drugstore setting sprays, priming sprays are amazing, but the mist is not good. That's not the case with this one. Very fine, very even. Now, if I had to choose between this product and the next one, I would personally go with the next one. I find myself using it more often. They are different products, but Essence says you can actually use both of these to prep and set your skin. I do think this product, the Jelly Grip Refreshing Aloe Spray, is a little bit more ideal as a prep step rather than a setting spray. So again, this one retails for $5.99 as well. This is an interesting texture. When I first saw it, I was like, is that going to work? Is that going to spray out evenly? But it does. It's like this liquidy gel. So if you mix it around in there, you can tell that it's not like a full liquid product. It has a little bit of a thicker quality to it, but when you spray it on the skin, it actually comes out really nicely. And then you can just let it dry on its own, or you can lightly blend it in. This is a really nice lightweight product that truly hydrates my skin. It feels so refreshing. It does have aloe in it. And I find that this formula is probably going to be a great option for you if you have red, irritated skin like I do, or if you have dry skin, or you want to refresh your skin before doing your makeup. Sometimes I'll do my skincare in the morning and then I'll do my makeup like a few hours later. So I like to go in with a prepping mist just to kind of refresh my skin before I go in with foundation or anything like that. And this is a nice option because it does hydrate the skin. It feels very soothing. But on top of that, there's a little bit of like a gripping feel to it. It's not as intense as the Jelly Grip Primer or like the e.l.f. What's the name of that? The e.l.f. Power Grip, the NYX primer, the one that kind of looks like glue. It's very light, but I feel like there is just like a tiny bit of a gripping feel. So it does help to make your makeup last a little bit longer, which is maybe all you need if you don't want anything too over the top. You can pair this with like the Essence Jelly Grip Primer on top if you want more of an intense gripping feel, but I've been loving this. Very easy to incorporate into my routine, and it feels good, and it makes enough of a difference that I think, you know, I personally will find it to be a necessity for me during the winter season. One last complexion product. This is from Catrice. It's their new Soft Blur Matte Setting Powder. So this is $9. It comes in 5 different shades. I personally like the shade Translucent for me. I do have the shade Light as well, but it ended up being just slightly too dark for me. So I think that's something I'll hang on to and then use again in the summertime. This is a beautiful formula. It definitely works to smooth the skin and also mattify the skin, but it doesn't highlight too much texture or dryness. I do find that it is pretty mattifying, but again, not in an unflattering or uncomfortable way. I would say if you have very dry skin, it might not be the most ideal option for you, but it is a very soft, very lightweight powder. A little bit of this powder goes a long way. I know I tend to say that often, but I feel like the center of this cap is all you need, or all I need to set the center of my face, my T-zone, and my makeup is locked in place all day long. And then I'll just take whatever's left kind of around like the outer portion of the cap with a large fluffy brush and dust it all over the rest of my face. And my skin looks great. It looks smooth, mattified, and my makeup will last really well throughout the day. Like I said, it does come in 5 shades. I'm using the shade Translucent. The shade Light is probably a little bit darker than my skin tone. So I would say if we have similar skin tones, you might want to go for Translucent, but they do have deeper options as well. I have a lot of great products from Catrice in today's video. I ordered these products from their website. Some of them are available on Amazon. I'll link them in the description box below so you can check them out if you're interested. But this palette really surprised me. It is an $8 blush palette. It's called the Blur Balm Blush Palette, and it comes with 6 different products. There is 1 highlighter and then 3 blush tones. No, not 3, 5 blush tones in here. Some are a little bit softer, some are more richly pigmented. I'll swatch them for you. But keep in mind, these actually appear more vibrant on the cheeks than they do when you swatch them on the hand. The formula really is beautiful. I mean, this feels like something that I would typically expect to see at Sephora. It is a balm to powder type of finish, so it does go on really nicely. It melts right into the skin in such a gorgeous way, and then it kind of sets down a little bit. For me, I still prefer to set mine with powder, but if you like the idea of a balm to powder, you might not necessarily have to go in with powder depending on the way you do your makeup or your skin type. It does last pretty well on the skin, especially for more of a balmy type texture. Usually when I, initially try a formula like this, I expect it to wear off very, very quickly. And I actually think this does stay in place pretty well throughout the day. It's very, very lightweight. It's easy to blend. It's easy to layer more, and you can kind of mix and match and create your custom shade, which I think is kind of fun. I was never really a big fan of that in the past, but sometimes I feel like when you're doing your makeup and you apply a color, you're like, no, that's not quite right. And then you go in with a little bit more of another color. And then if you layer on this like highlighting glaze, it's absolutely gorgeous. So I have been really impressed by this. And again, $8, that truly feels like such a steal for the quality and the amount of different options you have inside this one palette. I have talked about these a few times. I did a dupes video, I think last month, and I mentioned them in that video, but I've never talked about them in like a review roundup style video. So I wanted to share my final thoughts on these. These are gorgeous. Also from Catrice, the Soft Glam Baked Blushes. These are, in my opinion, like an identical dupe for the Rare Beauty Glowy Powder Blushes. And these are significantly less expensive. They are $8 each. And I think the Rare Beauty ones are maybe 3 times that price. This is going to be ideal for those of you that are looking for kind of like a blush highlighter hybrid. If you love a super glowy powder blush, I think you'll enjoy this a lot. I find that these don't have a ton of pigment when you initially apply them, but if you go in and layer them up, or you use like a heavier dense brush. Whenever I'm talking about brushes, I'm always like looking over here at my brushes, and I don't think I have one of those in front of me. But if you use like a light fluffy brush, you'll get more of that highlighter glow. But if you use something a little bit thicker, you'll get more of a true like blush highlighter hybrid look on the skin. Because it is a glowy blush, it is going to highlight texture, large pores if you're dealing with any of that on your skin like I do. But honestly, it gives such a beautiful effect. I personally find myself using it a lot. And what's nice is because you can go go in with like a lighter, fluffier brush, you can totally use this on top of a matte blush as a blush topper if that's something you want to do, or you can use it on its own. So if you've thought about those Rare Beauty blushes, but you haven't wanted to spend the money on them, try this alternative. It is just as good in my opinion. The only downside is that Catrice only has 4 different shades. They do have some lighter shades, some brighter shades, but they don't have quite as many options as Rare Beauty, but it might be more ideal to try the less expensive version first before committing to a more expensive alternative if you want to pick up an additional shade. Last cheek product for now. I can't remember the last time I purchased a powder bronzer, to be honest with you. I'm not a big fan of the way powder bronzer looks on my skin. I feel like no matter what I do, most of them end up looking very patchy, very muddy. There are a few I really enjoy, but I think that's why I don't typically buy a ton of them, because I feel like the ones I have do a great job, and every time I try a new one, I'm kind of disappointed. Until this one. This really impressed me. It's the new Butter Like Bronzer and Contour Palette from Catrice. I do have the lightest one. This one is called Born to Shape. So it does come with a warmer tone and a cooler tone. You can mix them together. You can go in with one or the other. This is such a silky formula. It is incredibly lightweight. So it does look a little bit more natural on the skin. You can only build it up to some extent. It's not something that is incredibly richly pigmented. So if that's what you're looking for out of a bronzer, I would probably skip over this. But if you like the idea of a lighter, softer look and you want something that just blends out nicely, that doesn't give you a patchy, uneven look, I think you'll be impressed by this too. I like the fact that it has a warmer shade and a cooler shade, because occasionally I'll want something a little bit warmer, but I don't typically want something this cool. So it's nice to kind of mix them together, which is what I typically do most days. It really is just so easy to work with, and I like that you get kind of like that nice undetectable finish on the skin. It's not glowy, but it definitely has more of a skin-like finish than other like fully matte bronzers I've tried. So if you need another bronzer or you want an alternative to like something that's more expensive in your collection that works well, you might enjoy this. I have quite a few lip products to talk about. Let me start with the ones that didn't work for me. I have been testing this first product out for what feels like months at this point. I just couldn't decide how I felt about it, and I've come to the conclusion that it's just not for me. I think some people might really enjoy this, but I personally feel like there are other alternatives out there I'd rather use. It's from NYX. It's their somewhat new Lip Lingerie Lip Liner Stain. So this product retails for $12. It does come in quite a few different shades, which I do love. Whether you're looking for something a little softer, a little bit more dramatic, you can probably find it within the shades they launched. And I've said this before, but NYX does such a good job with their like swatch photos. They don't retouch their photos. You can see what their products look like on just, you know, regular people, someone who hasn't been like fully airbrushed, retouched. So it helps me choose my shade when I'm looking online, because sometimes the way it looks once it's applied to the lips is different than it looks in like just a typical product photo. Anyway, just something that I really appreciate about NYX. So this is like a lip liner pen. It has a felt tip applicator and it almost looks like a liquid liner, but on the very end, there's a little bit of like a rounded tip. So this is interesting because you can use it to create like a line around your lips, or you can turn it on its side and really fill in your lips. It is a nice kind of customizable option. And I know that Huda Beauty came out with something like this as well, and a lot of people have been recommending NYX as a good alternative. So I know there are people who really enjoy this, but honestly, I just feel like when it comes to a lip stain, I'm not a big fan of this type of applicator, and that comes down to personal preference. I almost feel like it's a little bit too flexible. Like I can't get a super precise line with this. Not in the way that I can when I'm using a typical lip liner or a lip stain that has a doe foot applicator, like the what are those called? The e.l.f. lip stains that came out earlier this year. Those give kind of like that watery, sheer tint to the lips, but because it is like a doe foot, but like a firm doe foot applicator, I feel like I'm able to really line my lips very well with that product. Or even something like the Milani Glossy Lip Stain. I can go in with that and then wipe off the glossy layer. And again, I have a very precise line. The nice part about this product compared to those is you can press firmly and get much more of an intense look, whereas those are pretty sheer and soft overall. So I definitely like that about this product, but it's not the most flattering product on my lips. When I use this to like fully fill in my lips, it highlights any dry areas, any uneven texture, and it just doesn't look the best, especially now that we're heading into like the winter season where I live. My lips feel dry fairly often, and this product just doesn't look the greatest on its own. I'd rather go for something a little more forgiving, or even again, like the Milani lip stains that have a glossy finish, because they feel more comfortable throughout the day. I also don't find that these last all day on me. Like, I think they're supposed to be extremely long wearing lip products. I don't really like wearing these on their own, again, because they do highlight like all of the dryness on my lips. So I typically do top them with like a lip oil, a lip gloss, something that feels really moisturizing. And after like maybe 4 hours, I feel like the lip liner underneath is just not there. So every time I use one of these, I just really wish that I used like a traditional lip liner. I have a lot of lip liners that are very comfortable, very creamy, but work to stay in place well and give me more of an even look. So I'm just not a big fan of these. Again, I don't think everyone will dislike them. It comes down to personal preference, but I just feel like there are things that are easier to use, that look a little bit better, that feel more comfortable. So personally, I don't get the hype. Speaking of lip stains, I'm not a big fan of this product either. This is technically a lip and cheek stain, so you can use it either way. It's from Profusion. I thought these looked really pretty, but they just don't apply that well. They are the Jelly Drop Lip and Cheek Stains. They retail for right around $5. So I have two different options to share with you. I'll swatch them so you can see what they look like. First of all, they do stain really well. So obviously that is kind of like the main goal when it comes to a lip stain. You want it to stay in place. And these do last really well on the lips or the cheeks if you choose to use them in that way. They kind of remind me of the Milk Makeup lip and cheek stains, just in different packaging. These I think might be a little bit more ideal if you want to be able to apply your lip product more precisely, but they also don't feel as nice as that. Like, they feel a little bit dried out, and I assume mine aren't dried out because I purchased them like as soon as they launched, but they don't have as wet of a feel to them. It's the same jelly texture, a little bit of a cooling feel as you apply it, but this product breaks off very easily. I'll show you what it looks like when I swatch it on the back of my hand. It's almost like little pieces of the jelly stick kind of peel off and they're left on your skin, whether you're applying this to the cheeks or the lips. You can kind of brush them away, so it's not the end of the world, but I also feel like for a brand new product, it shouldn't be flaking off like that. While they do last really well on the skin, they're very, very soft, and it's hard to really build them up and layer them. So you're definitely going to get more of a, soft, sheer, natural appearance, whether you're using them as a blush or a lip product. I personally just didn't love this. I like the fact that it is shaped more like a lip product than the Milk Makeup one or like the dupes that have launched after that, but I just feel like it doesn't feel great. It feels dry on the lips. Again, with that peeling, it's just not the most flattering. And there are other alternatives I like better. Again, I think I prefer more of like a watery tint, like the e.l.f. ones or the Essence What a Tint, compared to something like this, because it just doesn't feel as nice and it doesn't look as flattering on the lips. So if I'm going to go for like a sheer kind of lip stain, I'd rather go for that type of formula than this. That being said, I think Profusion actually launched like one of the best lip products of the year. This is their new Frosted Kiss Cooling Plumping Lip Gloss. This honestly feels like something that I would expect to see at Sephora for a significantly more expensive price than what it is. How much is it? $4.97. That feels like such a steal for this product. The actual packaging is beautiful, and it comes with a metal applicator, which is interesting. I really never thought to combine this type of product with a metal applicator, but it does feel good on the lips. I think the metal applicator adds to like the cooling feel, but the actual formula has a little bit of a cooling quality to it as well. It's very moisturizing, very comfortable. It's a thin gloss. It almost borders on like lip oil territory. It's kind of a good mix between the two, so it's not too thick, but it does stay in place fairly well for such a thin product, and it feels so good on the lips. It's the type of product that I want to constantly reapply throughout the day because I love how it looks and I love how it feels. And again, it just feels and looks a lot more expensive than you would expect a $5 lip gloss to feel and look like. I really like it. I can't get enough of it. It's one of those products that I can't stop reaching for. And as someone who owns like a ton of lip products, I feel like that's saying something, because for the most part, a lot of them kind of end up blurring together, but that is one that I just can't put down. NYX came out with a new lip gloss formula that comes in quite a few shades. This is called the Jelly Job Lip Gloss. It retails for $12. This is a nice texture. It is kind of a sheer, almost jelly-like texture, but it's a little bit thicker than you might expect. Like originally, I think based on the photos, I thought it might be similar to Tower 28's lip gloss formula, but I would say it feels slightly more like a traditional lip gloss than that one. It does last on the lips pretty well for a lip gloss. I feel like mine will stay in place for a couple of hours, and when it wears off, my lips feel very soft, very smooth, which is not the case with a lot of lip gloss formulas. They do have some shimmer shades. The ones I have do not have any shimmer in them, but there are quite a few options depending on what you're kind of into. A few things about this lip gloss. It is, I think I said, a little bit more of a sheer gloss. So sometimes when I'm using the darker shade that I have, which is Jelly Bean, it will look a little bit uneven. So I definitely prefer to use this on top of a liner or a lipstick rather than just on its own. I'm not opposed to a sheer gloss, but there's a difference between like sheer and kind of streaky. And I do feel like that jelly-like texture almost causes it to look a little bit streaky sometimes. So again, I just prefer not to use it on its own. I will swatch it on its own on the lips so you can see what it looks like. The other thing, which is something that I've talked about, is the applicator. I don't love the applicator. It might not be something that really bothers you. It is just like a plastic applicator, so it's not the most comfortable, and I also don't feel like it spreads the gloss on as evenly as like a traditional lip gloss applicator would. The benefit is that it's very easy to clean off, so if I'm using this on top of a lipstick or a lip liner, I can clean it off easily before like sticking it back in, so the actual lip gloss shade won't change too much in the bottle. All of that being said, like I don't think I'm going to purchase additional shades. I feel like it's good. I'll use the two that I do have, but there are so many other glosses in my collection that I love. And if I was like, you know, in Ulta wanting a very specific shade of lip gloss, I wouldn't go for this formula first, if that makes sense. So it's nice. I'll continue to use it. But if you have a very large lip gloss collection, if you're happy with the ones you do own, I would say you could totally skip over it and be fine. A few lip oils. So e.l.f. did launch a plumping version of their Glow Reviver Lip Oil. I'm wearing this shade today, Ultraviolet. I'm wearing it on top of the Merit lipstick in the shade Baby. This has a little bit more color to it than some of the shades in the original line, but it's not too intense. So the main color you're seeing right now is from that lipstick, but I'll swatch these on their own so you can see what they look like. So the main difference between these and the original line is that these are supposed to plump the lips. I would say the plumping effect is pretty minimal. It's nothing too over the top. I think overall my lips do look really smooth. They look even, but it's not the effect that you get from something like the Too Faced lip injection. That causes your lips to plump up. Like it gives there's a very distinct difference between the before and the after. Whereas this one, I'm like, I think my lips look a little bit plumped up, but it's nothing too intense. These do have a pretty strong, like cooling, plumping sensation when you apply them to the lips. To me, it's not anything, you know, super uncomfortable. I do not like hot burning sensations when it comes to plumping products. If it's a cooling tingle, I actually kind of like it, like the Buxom glosses. So that is not something I mind, but if you don't like that feeling, it is a little bit stronger than some other formulas I've tried. It also has that same kind of minty scent that the original line does, but there's a little bit of a taste to this one as well. If you like accidentally get it on your tongue, I feel like you can taste it for like just a minute or two. I do think the shades in this line are really beautiful, and they appeal to me more than the original line because there are a bunch of cooler toned options as well. What's nice is they have some that have like shimmer and glitter and some that don't, whereas with the original line they were all, none of them had shimmer, and then they launched like a shimmery version. So now at this point I think they have 3 different options, and I would say go based on the color that would look the best on you, the one that appeals to you the most. If you don't like a cooling plumping sensation, skip over this line as a whole, but if you don't mind that, I think there are some gorgeous shades in this line. Catrice also launched a new lip oil. This is their Color Cushion Juicy Lip Oil. It comes in slightly different packaging than we typically see from brands for lip oils. It has kind of like a cushion applicator on top. Actually, Tarte has a lip product like this. I was testing this out originally when I was doing or working on my dupes video because I thought it might be a good dupe or alternative to Tarte's lip oil, but the actual lip oils themselves are very different. This one from Catrice comes in 5 different shades. It's a very lightweight formula. It's pretty subtle on the lips. I think it's a good option if you don't want anything too intense, if you want something very light, but you also like the idea of a lightly moisturizing lip product. I honestly like the little cushion applicator. I think it feels really good as you're applying the lip product, and it does give you a nice, smooth, even finish. I think these are great, really nice for every day. I don't know if they are like an absolute necessity for you. Again, if you have like a very large lip oil collection, you probably have something that performs just as great, if not better. But I do like the fact that these come in kind of like a pen style applicator. And I've been wearing this shade quite a bit. This one is Drenched Drama. This is my go-to. Again, it's very, very subtle, but if I want like a hint of color without like a super sticky or thick or heavy lip oil feel, this is what I'll reach for. Covergirl came out with a couple of new products. Actually, I just saw on Instagram they're coming out with some new blushes and bronzers that look really beautiful. I can't remember what the launch date was. They might actually already be available. I'll have to check and order them. But in the meantime, I did try out their new Squishy Glaze Lip Butter Balms. These are really beautiful. A Summer Fridays dupe for sure. There are so many Summer Fridays dupes out there at this point, and again, you might already have one that you love and you use frequently, but I would say these are very close, like a spot-on dupe in my opinion. If I applied Summer Fridays to like one side of my lips and then this one to the other, I probably wouldn't remember which side was which after like 2 minutes because it is that close. So they have 5 different options. I think they have like 2 that are sheer or clear, and then they have a couple that have a little bit more pigment to them. These are lightweight, they're shiny, they feel good, they smell good, they're moisturizing, they have the same exact applicator as Summer Fridays. Again, if you're looking for a Summer Fridays alternative, I don't think you would be disappointed by these. There are so many alternatives at this point, so I would choose based on like either the brand you love, the color, or the scent. You probably don't need all of them, and I don't know that I'll try like every single new Summer Fridays dupe, but if I'm being like very, very nitpicky in terms of like similarities and differences, I would say CoverGirl probably does come the closest to Summer Fridays. And at $12, these are still significantly less expensive than Summer Fridays. So I've been enjoying them a lot. I think my favorite is Fresh Plum, just because I do like the color and the scent. It's really nice. CoverGirl also launched this really cute little jammy lip sleeping mask. I said this before, but I think this would make such a cute stocking stuffer. And now that I've used the product a ton, I mean, I do think it's worth the money for sure. This is a very intense lip mask. It's pretty thick, pretty heavy on the lips. So overnight, it really does work to soften your lips and leave them very, very moisturized, which is super ideal for the winter time. I need to actually like bring mine upstairs and set it by my bed because I have it where I do my makeup because I've been testing it, but I did use it overnight a few times and I love the effect it actually has on my lips. It smells really good. It kind of has like a sweet lavender scent to it, so I find it just really appealing overall. I love the way it looks. It feels good if I use it during the day. Like if I apply it in the morning, it will stay in place for a few hours. Honestly, probably longer than that, but obviously when you're sleeping at night, you're not like eating and drinking and talking, so it lasts a little bit longer on the lips. But it is beautiful. It's pretty bulky packaging, so it might not appeal to you for that reason. And I actually read if you twist up too much, which is easy to do, you can actually just twist it back down, which is so nice because normally with products that come in this style of packaging, it's not as easy to do that. But I have been loving this product. Really like one of the most intense, nourishing overnight lip treatments I've tried. Okay, let's finish up with eye products. I did not expect to like this product, but I do really like it. I've actually cut eyeshadow primers out of my routine for the most part, just because I don't really find them super necessary. I'll usually just go in with concealer, set it with powder. This has me changing my mind. It's from Essence. It's the Jelly Grip Eyeshadow Primer. This works so well, no matter what type of product you use it with, whether you're going in with powder, creams, liquids. Every shadow applies beautifully on top of this and actually lasts so much longer throughout the day, which Again, I just did not expect that to be the case because it is a little bit of a sticky gripping primer. I really thought that my eyeshadow would look really patchy on top of this product, but it doesn't. Today I applied this product. I didn't set it. I didn't go over it with concealer. I went directly on top with a Natasha Denona powder shadow. It blended evenly. It actually looked much more vibrant on top of this primer than it does on its own. It's like the same shadow I wear most of the time. And again, I was shocked. Like I knew that was the case because I've been testing it out, but I mainly use it with like liquids and creams. And again, liquids and creams apply perfectly on top of this. So if you are looking for a good eyeshadow primer, I think you'll like this, especially if you like the idea of a sticky or tacky base. There's like a before and after on Ulta's website where they show powder shadow without this and then powder shadow on top of this. And the powder shadow is much more vibrant on top of this. And I was like, that is not accurate until I used it. And I was like, okay, I understand the hype. Like it really does make a difference. I also love this under concealer. Like when I'm priming my face, I'll just apply this all over my lid and then take a little bit under here. And I do feel like my concealer doesn't crease as much when I use this product. So really impressed by this. Again, it surprised me. I didn't expect to like these Essence products as much as I do, but they have become daily staples. I have these Catrice eyeshadows like among all of the other products, but I've talked about these a lot on my channel. The Drunken Diamonds eyeshadow sticks. I love these. Again, one of my top favorite launches of 2025. They're so good. My only complaint is that they only have 3 shades. I wish they would launch more. A lot of you asked me when I talked about these in my dupes video, because I did compare them to the new Tower 28 sticks, if I tried e.l.f.'s version. And I hadn't tried them at that point, but I have tried them since then. So I wanted to share my thoughts on these. So I have 2 shades. I'm wearing one on the eyes today. They actually don't have the shade names on them. So I'll figure out which one I'm wearing and put it on the screen for you. I think these look pretty. I don't think I like them, or I know I don't like them as much as Catrice, and I don't think that they are a dupe for Tower 28. They're a little bit thicker. They are more of like a cream rather than a super lightweight gel. They're still pretty light on the eyes. I prefer to kind of tap them in place with my finger because if you go in and really layer them and build them up, I feel like they can get heavy quick and then they'll end up creasing on you before they have the chance to dry down. Even once they dry down, like sometimes by the end of the day, I feel like they crease on me a little bit. So I don't feel like they are an identical dupe to Tower 28. If you're looking for like a super thin, almost weightless feeling product, I would go with Tower 28 or Catrice. They give you like an intense finish, but you can also sheer them out. If you like the idea of, you know what these remind me of? The KVD Dazzle sticks. They have more of that creamy texture to them. They're still really shiny, very intense on the eyes, but they're a little bit thicker. They feel more like a traditional cream shadow. Definitely not a bad product, just not as lightweight, as long wearing, in my opinion, as Tower 28. There's still no fallout. I don't end up with glitter all over my face, anything like that. I feel like these are just so much easier. Like these types of products are so much easier to apply than like a single shadow or like a gritty, glittery shadow. I feel like this is almost like the ColourPop Super Shock shadow in stick form and like improved. It's very thin, very comfortable, super lightweight. So I do like both options, but I think Catrice is a little bit better. e.l.f. does have more options to choose from, and I know e.l.f. can be a little bit easier for people to find, both in store and online. So I don't think you'll be disappointed. I personally like the Catrice formula a little bit better. Finishing up, I have 3 mascaras to talk about. I've been using these very regularly over the last few weeks. So this first one is from CoverGirl. It is the Eye Enhancer Wrap Tubing Mascara. This is $12.99. This is the best CoverGirl mascara that I've tried in a long time. They used to make some of my favorite mascaras back in the day, and honestly, like still, when I go to the drugstore, I am amazed by how many CoverGirl mascaras there are. There are a ton of different options, but I really do like this one. If you want a tubing mascara, but you also like the look of a very dramatic lash, this is a great option because it's really easy to build. You can get a lot of volume, a lot of length. It stays in place really well throughout the day without any issues. It reminds me a little bit of Persona's tubing mascara. I like that one better and I like the wand better, but I do feel like this gives a somewhat similar effect on the eyes. It is a very wet formula, so if you're not a fan of that, I would skip over it, but if you're a dramatic mascara fan, it is nice because you can easily build this one up. I feel like it's similar. No. I feel like this is what Milani intended their highly rated lash extensions mascara to be, but but CoverGirl did it better. I love the Milani one, but I don't typically use that on its own. I'll use it as like the last step in my makeup routine to like add a tiny bit of length to my lashes. But on its own, it's very hard to use, very hard to build because it is so wet. And I feel like the wand almost like scrapes off the mascara instead of layers more. Instead of layering more, there's like a few issues with that one. So if you liked the idea of that one, but it didn't quite work for you, this might actually be a better alternative. Catrice also launched a tubing mascara, and if you like the idea of like lifted curled lashes from a tubing mascara, this one's going to be a little bit more ideal. It's also less expensive. So this one retails for $7. This formula is not as wet, so I do find that it's easier to build and easier to apply without making a mess. If you're like me and you just make a mess no matter what mascara you use, you might actually prefer this one because it doesn't get on your eyelid as much. I would say it's not quite as dramatic as the CoverGirl mascara, but you almost end up with a similar effect drama-wise because it does such a great job of like lifting the lashes and opening your eyes. So while it's not as easy to get volume with this formula, I do feel like it gives my lashes a similar effect in the end, if that makes sense. And it's probably more dramatic than like another one of my favorite tubing mascaras is the e.l.f. What is that one called? The one with the green tube. I can't remember the name of any makeup product today. It's e.l.f.'s tubing mascara. That one is like the least intense for me personally. That's like an everyday mascara if you want like natural lashes. This one is more dramatic than that one, but the CoverGirl one is the most dramatic. I feel like I've tried a ton of tubing mascaras lately. I need to do like a roundup and maybe do like befores and afters using every single tubing mascara and like ranking them based on their different characteristics because there are so many out there and I feel like they're all different. Anyway, again, no flaking or smudging with this one. It stays in place well and does remove easily at the end of the night. I don't know that the Catrice one or the CoverGirl one just like completely slides off like other tubing mascaras I've tried. I still typically use like micellar water to remove them, but they do come off in like pieces or in tubes like a tubing mascara. Okay, the last one that I wanted to talk about is from Catrice as well. This is their Hyper Lash Mascara. When I saw the wand, I was like, I am not going to like that because it is such a large wand. And to be fair, I don't like this as much as the tubing mascara. Like if I had to choose between the two, I would 100% go with the tubing mascara. I think it does apply a little bit better and it looks a little bit more flattering on my lashes, but this is actually not hard to apply for such a large wand. Again, the mascara itself is not super wet. It's almost a little bit dry, so it is easy to apply this and build it up on the lashes. Very lightweight formula, so if you don't like the look and feel of like crunchy lashes, which that's such a unappealing description, but you know what I mean. Like some mascaras, you can feel them on the lashes. They feel heavy. Your eyes don't look like light and soft and fluttery. Then I think you might like this one because it does give that like soft, fluttery lash look. I'm sorry, we're getting to the end of the video and the words are not flowing easily. The nice part about this one is it does come in 4 different options. So they have black, they have a waterproof black, they have brown, and then burgundy. So if you're looking for an inexpensive option, that looks great for everyday wear. I mean, I don't think you'll be disappointed in this. Personally, I usually just like a little bit more drama out of my mascara. So it's something that I'll use up fully. I just probably won't end up repurchasing because it's not my favorite. But again, no issues with flaking or smudging throughout the day. So no complaints in that area. I just like a little bit more drama. This was a long one. I had intentions of keeping these reviews like quick, moving to the point, and it did not come out that way. I tend to be a little bit long-winded, but I've said this before. If you are spending your money based on one of my reviews, I want to make sure you have the pros and the cons. And I know it doesn't always work out. Like if I recommend something, it doesn't mean it will always 100% work for you, but I really try to make sure you have the info before you decide to spend your money on it. Because even if it is like a $5 lip product, that's still $5 you could have spent on anything. So anyway, I hope today's video was helpful if you were considering these products. If you see anything at the drugstore over the next few weeks or from a drugstore brand that you want me to review on my channel, let me know and I'll pick it up and test it out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you very soon with a new one. Bye.